time for another episode of the Animated Critics. Coming to you live from the studio, it's your favorite movie mavericks, T and J.
Hi, I'm T.
And I'm Jay. Welcome to a very special episode where we look at the 2011 Oscar nominations and make our predictions of what we think will win on the big night. Let's take a look at the Best Actor in a Lead Role category.
My personal favorite in this category has to be Jesse Eisenberg for The Social Network. I really think that he just gave such a strong performance after having watched him come up from Zombieland and Adventureland, and now really coming into his own in this movie was an incredible performance. But I really think that Colin Firth is going to win.
I agree. I thought Eisenberg was excellent in The Social Network. I think he finally distanced himself as being the other Michael Cera and really came into his own in this performance. I also think that James Franco, it's nice to see him listed in this category up for this role, although it's kind of strange that he's nominated in such a high-profile category and he's going to be hosting the event. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out. Those are the guys I want to win, but I agree with you. I think Colin Firth is the strong contender, much like Jeff Bridges was last year. I think Javier Bardem slipped in on this somehow. I don't know exactly how that happened. It's for a foreign film. And really, I think they kind of left out Wahlberg and DiCaprio.
I would agree with you on those nominations. I don't honestly think it would matter because neither one have a shot at winning this. And James Franco, the dude's everywhere. You cannot escape James Franco, and I think that he's just Hollywood's sweetheart at the moment.
I would say that he's risking overexposure. This has to be the first time in history somebody in 1 year has appeared on a soap opera and been nominated for Best Actor in the same year. Our next category is Best Actor in a Supporting Role, and my personal favorite in this category is Christian Bale in The Fighter. Bale's very strong in this film. He's got to be the frontrunner in the category. He's already picked up the Golden Globe and numerous other awards throughout the industry. Although I really did like Jeffrey Renner in The Town. I thought he was the wild card in that film. I don't really know how Mark Ruffalo snuck into this, but I do think the outside shot in this is Jeffrey Rush, especially if The King's Speech has some early success in other categories and it turns out to be a sweeping night for that film. Look for him to maybe steal this out from Bale.
I think Christian Bale's a lock at this point. As far as the Mark Ruffalo thing goes, he really was very good in The Kids Are All Right. Surprisingly for Mark Ruffalo, who I've never really paid much attention to, but he was a standout actor, I think, in that movie. And going up against people like Jeremy Renner and Jeffrey Rush, it's a no-brainer to give these guys nominations, but I don't think that anyone's really up to the work that Christian Bale did in The Fighter.
My one gripe with Ruffalo and John Hawkes is that one of them took Michael Douglas's spot. I was actually kind of shocked when I didn't see his name because he had been so high profile with his battle with cancer, and usually there's a sympathy vote associated with that. Plus the fact that he was very strong in Wall Street too, and it was a follow-up on a performance he had gotten an Oscar from 20-something years ago. So this is somewhat surprising that they went with this and they didn't go with the sentimental favorite, which would have been Michael Douglas.
Moving on to actress in the leading role, I think that this is just flat out Natalie Portman. There's no one else here that did a better job. Perhaps Michelle Williams in Blue Valentine, but other than that, Annette Bening was good. But Natalie Portman was just a standout star in Black Swan.
I agree. I think this is one of the biggest locks of the Oscars. She seems to have the PR machine hyping up right now. She even has a romantic comedy, No Strings Attached, that's out, just making great money. So she seems to be the talk of the town. And Black Swan, say what you want about the movie, about anything about the movie, she is excellent in the film. It rests on her shoulders, and she more than carries it. Some of these other actresses seem to be getting nominated, and the nomination is the award. Like for Nicole Kidman and Annette Bening, I think just recognizing them is pretty much the award. But Michelle Williams is in there too, and it's kind of amazing that the Oscars this year have a lot of very young actors and actresses up for major awards. It's interesting and refreshing to see that they're going a little bit younger as opposed to keep nominating the same people over and over.
This is the first award show really where you have the young guys coming up, and the older people really weren't, the older actors really weren't very active last year in films.
Next, we have Best Actress in a Supporting Role. And I think the standout here, for me, was Melissa Leo in The Fighter. As good as Amy Adams was, she was overshadowed by Leo, and her portrait of this older woman who had such an intriguing role, and I just thought she really nailed it out of the park, although I do think she will lose out to Helena Bonham Carter for The King's Speech, because I just see that film taking a lot of Oscar acting categories by storm.
I disagree. I don't think The King's Speech is going to sweep the Oscars, and I think that Melissa Leo is a lock for this win. Amy Adams is good as well, as you had mentioned, and Haley Steinfeld, very good in True Grit, but I just think that she's too young, and I don't think True Grit is really going to come through and win a lot of Oscars this year.
Once again, I think that her nomination is the award for her, and just getting her a little bit of attention for her role. She is a big part of that ensemble, and she stands out amongst other great actors. So it's nice to see that she's nominated.
And moving on to animated feature film, I think it's fairly obvious Toy Story 3 is going to win. It doesn't really matter what you think. You like it, you hate it, you like anything else, it doesn't matter. Toy Story 3 is going to win. So I'm surprised, honestly, that How to Train Your Dragon got nominated. That's a surprise nomination to me. The Illusionist, I think, was obvious that that would be nominated.
I actually thought Despicable Me might slide in here because of the success it had and the way that so many people liked it. I liked it more than How to Train Your Dragon, actually, but I do think, regardless of whatever was going up against Toy Story 3, was going to lose. Toy Story 3 shouldn't be nominated as part of the 10 Best Picture nominations because it has this category specifically for it. It doesn't need any more attention, and this is rightfully the category it should win. And next we have the category for Best Cinematography. And I really, really enjoyed Wally Pfister's cinematography on Inception. As many problems as I had with that film, it does have a classic film noir look. It's very polished. Every frame is very intriguing to look at. But I also think the dark horse for this will be Jeff Cronenworth for The Social Network. It has that David Fincher look with greens and darks and very moody atmospheric look.
Yeah, I would agree. It's incredible to see, lighting that would be applied to a thriller and maybe even to like a murder mystery be applied to a drama, and it just brought so much to that movie. If I'm really being honest about my favorite, it would be Matthew Libatique for Black Swan. His cinematography in that movie seemed to be the perfect thing for Natalie Portman to play off of. It just went together so well. Together, that really made that movie. Without that cinematography, without the camera work in that movie, it just wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be as imposing and dark and stark.
It's one of the closest, toughest categories in the entire Oscar race this year is Best Cinematography because all of these films are worthy of being up for this award.
It's interesting you say Inception. I thought Inception was very flatly lit. Inception's cinematography didn't seem to really support the storyline or add to it.
It looked like he was running around in Gotham City. That's why I liked it.
It did actually remind me a lot of the Dark Knight cinematography, now that you say that. Unfortunately, DiCaprio is more of a Robin than a Batman. And moving on to directing, this is a hard one. I really want David Fincher to win. There are three movies that I think were the best directed this year, and that's Black Swan, The Social Network, and Inception. Black Swan and Inception both have pretty glaringly obvious problems in their story structure, and The Social Network was the only one that just drew me in and kept me into the movie the entire time it was playing. I really think Tom Hooper's going to win for The King's Speech, though.
It's intriguing you mention Inception because Christopher Nolan was not nominated in this category. I did think that it was a very well-directed film as well, and he probably was one of the biggest snubs of the year, not having him included. Having said that, I want David Fincher to win this award. He was nominated a couple years ago for Benjamin Button, and even though I wasn't a fan of that film, I understood why he was nominated, and now I see it even clearer. And this is a great film. The material would not have looked the same had it been through a different director's vision. He imprinted it with his own style. It came out fantastic. However, I agree with you, and I think Tom Hooper is going to steal this away. Lately, he's been some sort of a dark horse, winning a couple awards, and I just feel like King's Speech is going to sneak up and steal a couple awards in major categories. Next, we have Best Film Editing. I would have to give this to The Social Network because I thought that film was cut amazingly. It plays very quickly. They throw a lot of information at you in a very short amount of time, and everything is extremely clear visually with the narrative. And I just thought it was an excellent, excellent job.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that they had probably the easiest job out of anyone, though, because that script is literally written the way that movie's cut. They were lucky in the sense that that movie, while being shared amongst several big names, creating it really had a singular view. All these guys seem to just line up on it, and it's a kind of a neat thing to see. Although I really did like Black Swan editing as well. I thought it was very creepy, especially the quick cuts in it that you don't quite expect them to be there. Normally those bother me in films, but it didn't bother me in that unless, well, it was meant to, I guess, really. It was very effective. Moving on to music, original score. That Inception Hans Zimmer score is just incredible. Very good, very heisty, perfect for a heist film. But I really think that Social Network, Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross score is just amazing. It just in its simplicity, really. The one score that I'm a little upset, and I don't know if people are going to agree with me on this or not, that is I really wanted that Tron score to win, just because it's so damn good.
I agree with you on all counts. Everything you said, 100%. Inception score is fantastic. Social Network score is the best score of the year. But Tron Legacy, Daft Punk's score on that was fantastic as well. And I'd be hard pressed to say that John Powell's How to Train Your Dragon score is better thematically than Tron Legacy. When you hear that, you instantly see images from the film. And that's to me a sign of a good score.
When you can take major pieces of the score and use them specifically as trailer music, you know you got a good score.
That's one of the rare times that I've ever seen music from the actual score used in the trailer.
If it weren't so locked into Tron, I think that you'd see that music in other trailers, kind of like the Last Samurai score, which you found in every single Asian influence type movie trailer in the past 10 years.
And next we have the category for Best Adapted Screenplay. Hands down, the best screenplay of the year for The Social Network. I want it to win. I do think it will win. I think this is a category that it's guaranteed to win. I think this was its strongest category for it.
Yeah, I think the only movie that could go up against it would be Toy Story 3, just because so many people love that storyline. But I agree with Social Network. I think it's interesting that it's in adapted screenplay, even though it's not truly adapted, because they wrote the book at the same time that Aaron Sorkin was writing the movie. So he didn't necessarily base the movie off the book, but off of more of like a treatment for the book. I guess that it doesn't really go into original screenplay or adapted screenplay. I'm not sure where you would put that. Somewhere in the middle.
It seemed like a safer bet to me to put it in the adapted screenplay where the competition, however good, is less fierce than original screenplay this year.
I'd agree with that. It does ensure it a sure win. Moving on to original screenplay. If I'm going to be honest here, these movies all have problems for me at this point. So I'm not going to say who I want to win because I would burn all these scripts personally, but The King's Speech I think is just going to win. Inception and The Fighter, I just don't think they're strong enough.
I have to disagree with you on this one. I think this is a category that Inception will win. I think this is the gimme for it almost. This is kind of the sorry for not nominating Nolan as a director for this film, and I think that this might be the surprise of the night is Inception to win Best Original Screenplay.
Normally, the Oscars doesn't really give and take here and there between categories. You know, they don't give someone one category and just for losing another. But it is interesting you say that because this is one of the few categories that he is nominated for.
And finally, we've come to our last category, the biggest category of the night, the nominations for Best Picture. This year, once again, the second year in a row, there are 10 nominees. They've included a lot of big films and small films, like we had mentioned earlier. Toy Story 3 did sneak in, and I don't think that's particularly right. I think this spot that it took could have been given to other films. Notably, The Town is very absent in any nominations this year, and I'm a little upset about that because I thought it was such a fantastic film, and I would have liked to have seen it nominated amongst these other titles. That being said, I do think big winner of the night will be The King's Speech. I'm not exactly happy about that. I do think personally the best picture of the year is The Social Network. But The King's Speech has all of a sudden taken up a lot of steam in the last few weeks, and this isn't always about what the best film of the year is. It's sometimes a political game with these things, and I just think The King's Speech is going to steal it, although I'd love for The Social Network to take it home.
Toy Story 3 really shouldn't be in here. That was a stolen nomination, and this from so many movies out there that could have been nominated in its place, and they really need to stop doing that. But more importantly, this is just an eclectic group of films. Like these are the top 10 movies of the year. Really, what a sad year that this is. And I really think King's Speech is going to win, and Social Network really deserves it. And after that rundown, we're going to run down who we think got the biggest snubs.
Personally, I think that Christopher Nolan should have been nominated in the directing category. I think The Town should have been up for Best Director and Best Picture. And I also think that Oliver Stone's script for Wall Street 2 was worthy for a Best Original Screenplay Oscar.
I agree with you completely on all those accounts. The Town really should have been far more involved in these nominations than it was. I think that Andrew Garfield got snubbed for supporting role, and Greenberg, I think, got snubbed for at least for screenplay by Noah Baumbach, and really I would even put that up for Best Picture. Knock Toy Story 3 out and throw that in there.
And that concludes our Oscar special for the 83rd Academy Awards. Be sure to tune in on the big night, February 27th, to find out who the actual winners are.
Be sure to check MovieMavericks.com to play our second annual Guess the Oscars contest. Whoever guesses the most correct answers first wins a $20 Amazon gift card.
And that does it for our show this week. Be sure to check back next week for an all-new episode. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next weekend.